All right. Hello, everyone. This is the third episode of the Real Estate Roundtable. And today we're going to be talking about strategies for realtors going into 2016 for success. I'm Jayson Bates, a host here, along with my compadre, Jorge Cuervas. Hey, how you doing?
What's up, Jason? I'm ready to get started.
All right, cool, man. Hey, before we get started though, let's give our little plugs, right? So if you want to reach out to me, I live in Phoenix, Arizona. You can visit my website by visiting www.valleythesunrealestateshow.com for all the listeners, because I do podcast this. So for everyone that's listening on the podcast and not watching the live streaming or the YouTube video, you can visit me on iTunes. And if you do so, please write a review, as it is one of the only ways that I have to help improve the show. So thank you for doing that. And George, how can we get a hold of you?
Yeah, if you want to check me out at agentredefined.com, that's basically my blog, and I have a ton of free real estate marketing training on there for real estate agents.
All right, cool. Excellent. So let's get right into this, George, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about, and hopefully we'll get some participation here for some strategies here for realtors going into 2016. And I want to first bring up this danger report. Because I think this is a good indicator of what we can expect, or what realtors can expect in the future. And there's some big changes that could be coming down the pipeline here.
Well, the changes are already happening, and that's really the whole point of the danger report. And let's just give a little background. If you have not read this report, or maybe you've heard about it, there is, without a doubt, every real estate agent out there should read this report. It's very easy to consume, and they put it in like really basic layman's terms. But what they did a great job of is taking a very complex issue, like the challenges that the real estate industry is facing, and they broke it down to how it affects realtors, the MLSs, the boards, and even NAR itself. And the whole thing that was so fascinating to me about it was that NAR actually commissioned this report. It took a year. They had a third-party service or people do this and perform this report. They did all their research, and it's not a very positive review of the real estate industry as a whole. But it's in my opinion, it's like 99% spot on.
Yeah, and let's kind of just give everybody what the danger report, what it stands for. It stands for the definitive analysis of negative game changers emerging in real estate. So, like you said, NAR, National Association of Realtors, commissioned this report to give realtors some insight as to the direction that the real estate industry may be going.
Yeah,
and
I mean, is going. That's the main thing. It really is going this way.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, and I'm just going to touch base, and I think for this particular episode, I think we should just focus on the real estate or the realtor, side, because it does have some broker side. It does have
all the
parties involved in real estate. So one of the major things that I thought was very interesting to me was, and they categorize it in a couple of different categories, as most likely to happen with least likely to happen, but more probable than not that it will happen. And they kind of categorize it as to how quickly it will impact the real estate industry. And one of the top ones was the masses of marginal agents destroying the reputation of realtors.
Yeah. Yep.
And I can't say that enough. I just got off the phone today with a realtor who didn't know the difference between a condo and a quasi patio home, townhome dwelling. She didn't know. And that is something that I battle with even on my side of the industry, right? On the loan officer side. I can do everything right, but if there's something that's out of my control that happens, that negatively impacts my reputation. And at the end of the day, all we have is our reputation. And that goes true for realtors.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what they do in the report is they get into how there really is there's no platform in real estate for a real estate agent to actually get training or on the job training. It's either once you get your license, they don't get too much into that. The fact that your license, once you get it, the class you took for your state license didn't teach you anything about how to do your job. and what they get into is that there's no mentorship programs, there's nothing like that, and there's been this cumulative effect of all these bad real estate agents that are out there, and the negative effect that they have on home buyers and home sellers.
Yeah. You have a lot of part-time agents out there that don't take the business very seriously.
Well,
And
it's part-time and full-time. There's
yeah.
it really is both. Both. You can find bad agents in any city, in any market that you go to. They're everywhere. And I used to think that at the time of the crash, in 2008, that we would get this sort of like rebalancing out of the real estate industry, that we would get a whole bunch of agents that would get out of the business, because it had changed so much. But those agents, they yeah, some of them left, but they're still here. And what the report, I think, correctly identifies is that it's having a very negative impact on how consumers look at real estate agents, and how they look at the value of what a real estate agent has in the whole process and the transaction and everything.
So now, what do you think that, and you were a realtor, right? So what do you think is a good
I
strategy?
was.
You were.
Yeah, not anymore.
Not anymore. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But what do you think would be a good strategy for a realtor to take to help, combat that negative connotation, if you will, from their peers?
Well, it's actually really simple. You just have to be good at your job, and you have to want to do your job. And the job today isn't about selling. You don't have to sell your client on buying that house. You don't have to sell a homeowner on selling their house. The decision of the purchasing decision or the sales decision for a homeowner, home buyer, has already been made. They don't need you to help them do that any longer. What they need from the real estate agent today is that they're buying your trust, and they're buying your confidence in the transaction. They need your experience so that they can submit an offer. They can submit an offer at the right price. They can pay the right price, and they can buy a house that's not going to be a piece of junk or get them into trouble 2 or 3 or 5 years down the road, because they got to put another 50K into it because the HVAC system didn't work or the roof was leaky or whatever. So the sales process has changed, and what buyers and sellers want and what they need from a real estate agent is different today. So, like, to answer your question, it's actually super, super simple. You just have to you have to understand first what it is your buyers and sellers want today. And if you talk to, you could talk to a few of them, and they don't need you to sell. They need your experience. That they really need more of a consultant than a salesperson.
Yeah, yeah, I hear that a lot from realtors. They need an advisor. They need
Mhm.
other things rather than just a quote unquote realtor.
Right, right. Well, they don't need the salesperson aspect of it. They absolutely don't need that. So, like, that whole thing with when I first got into the business in '96 and became a real estate agent, when I did used to practice, it was that way. Like, you were always selling. There was this ABC was like a, that acronym that gets used a lot in all salespeople circles, that always be closing. And you don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to go hardcore sales pitch, sell, sell, sell to any buyer or seller anymore. That's just not necessary. So I think that's actually an opportunity, because it's a lot more funner to do this job. And that's not a right word, but
But
it's much more fun to do this job when you're really truly helping people. And,
right.
and that's and really that's the definition of what a salesperson is. A salesperson, the definition of salesperson is really to be of service when you
Well,
translate it down.
know your craft, right? I mean, that's
Right.
when you know your craft, people will gravitate you naturally, and be confident in what you're telling people. I think is a good
Yeah.
strategy to go
Oh
about.
yeah.
Don't
And
be
you get
wishy washy with what you tell people. Be very confident and know your craft.
right, and you get confident by knowing your job. That by knowing, I see clients all the time, or not clients, agents. They're clients of mine, but realtors that will take on a listing that they have no marketing plan for, and the seller of that home deserved a marketing plan, or they were expecting a real marketing plan for that home. But
Yeah.
the agent had no other plan other than to just put the house on the MLS and put a sign in the front, and then wait for a buyer to come by.
Right. Now, the next one here too that I thought was pretty interesting, and I hear this a lot from realtors, is and this has already kind of started here, and it may just get worse as time goes on. Is that commissions are spiraling downward? So there's a lot of pressure. Yeah, yeah. Who can offer the least expensive for the most that they can add to help selling or help a buyer purchase a home?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
It's commissions. I think a lot of realtors get into it thinking they can just work whenever they want and make tons of money. And commissions are something that, it's 1099, and another part of that going into the commissions is that the IRS may take away that 1099 aspect of real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So now from a realtor's perspective, and I've had conversations with realtors about commissions, you are what you're worth, right? If you provide a good value to your client, the best strategy is to have that value, and then your commissions is a non-issue. You having to negotiate your commissions becomes a non-issue if you provide that value or perceived value.
It's perceived value. And so the biggest lesson for real estate agents to understand about sales and marketing today and what's different is that people don't buy they don't buy based on what brokerage you're at. They don't buy because of how big your brokerage is or how many sales awards you have or any of that kind of garbage. They buy into you. And they buy into you because they believe that you can actually help them accomplish what they need. And that is to buy a house or to sell their house. So the way you got to look at yourself as being a real estate agent today is that you are you're sort of like Yoda. If you go to use a Star Wars acronym, because I'm a total geek. And so in Star Wars, you've got Luke Skywalker and Yoda. Well, Luke Skywalker wants to be a Jedi. He wants to be a Jedi Knight. And the only way he can do that is if Yoda trains him to be a Jedi Knight. And in the real estate agent, let's say if you're listing a home and the home seller, for the homeowner needs to believe that you have what it takes to get their home sold in some decent amount of time and for some price that they understand is what is market value. And they need to believe in you that that's how they're going to get there. And when you start positioning and presenting yourself in that kind of manner, they don't care. Well, they do care. They're not going to pay just any price, but you'll be able to get the 2.5%, the 3% commission on your side of the deal, but only if you're offering, like what you say, Jason, is just offer pure value. And by offering pure value is like the opposite of trying to sell them or trying to get them in a hardcore sale or use any kind of tacky sales language to get that listing or to get that buyer.
Right. Again, know your craft, right? I mean, know what you're talking about. Be confident about what you're talking about. That's going to come across, and people are willing to pay extra for people who know what they're doing and feel that they're being, that you're looking out for their best interests.
Yeah. And we see examples of that all the time everywhere. Like, Starbucks isn't the cheapest coffee out there. You can buy cheaper coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. You can buy cheaper coffee at the gas station, but you're going to pay a premium price to go to Starbucks and buy that coffee because like Starbucks doesn't sell coffee. They sell something much deeper than just coffee. People pay $100,000 for a Tesla car, and I'm an Apple geek, so I could buy a PC for a quarter of the price, but instead I buy these expensive Apple products and Apple computers because I believe in Apple, and I believe in what Apple can give me. It's the same thing with a home buyer or a home seller. They have to believe in you that you can actually help them.
So just for people who have joined the room, we're talking about strategies for realtors in 2016 and beyond. We're talking about the danger report. I put that up on the link there in the chat. You can certainly visit their website there. And we're really focused on the agent side of things. The changes that the National Association of Realtors is saying that is here and will become a bigger part of what we do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing they said here too is agent teams are threatened.
Yeah.
Now, we talked before that sometimes, and I've seen a kind of a shift here in Phoenix where a lot of agents who are onesie twosie agents want to combine their efforts with another team, and feel that they're a little more protected, a little more shielded there. Here, the National Association of Realtors is saying, hey, that concept may be threatened here a little bit.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to teams, one of the things that depends on how that team's formed and what exactly that team is actually accomplishing. And if you do it like the old school method, which is basically you got one rainmaker agent, and then he or she has some buyer's agents and some selling agents under them. Well, the key part there that's missing is that sometimes, not all times, but sometimes that rainmaker agent isn't involved anywhere in the transaction. The seller, the homeowner, the seller of that property, or the buyer, they never actually make contact at all with the rainmaker, the person whose face is on the signs, the person whose face is everywhere. They never see that person. And that's where the mistake is, because people want to know who they're doing business with. There has to be a face there. There has to be a personality.
Right.
And that's what they're buying into. And if it's too systematized or over systematized, where they never get that personal attention and feel like their business is truly valued, and that has to come from the leader of the team. They have to have some impact there. And that's where they kind of allude to, is that when you have some of these super teams that have so many agents under them, and they have these tremendous volume, which is awesome, that's where you start to lose touch with the homeowner or with the buyer.
Well, and they kind of allude to in this danger report as well that because the commissions may be pressed lower or suppressed, that the teams won't be able to afford to compensate everybody within the team and split the pie. The pie gets smaller. You won't be able to. And so therefore the team concept may be in jeopardy if that trend,
and that ties directly to what we just talked about, which is if you start offering a commodity, if your services, and you look at your service as just a pure commodity, and you're just going to do the same exact thing that the next agent next door to you does. So if your business plan for how you service buyers and how you service sellers is no different than how Jamie at Remax or Keller Williams or Exit or whatever, how they do business, and your marketing plan, what you offer is no different, then you bring no value. You bring no true value to the table. And now that buyer or seller, they can look at you and the Keller Williams agent and the Remax agent and all the other different agents out there, and they see no difference. So then now now that buyer or seller will contact several different agents to decide who they feel, can help them and actually service their needs. And now that's how you start to get to that race to the bottom, where you get different agents competing against each other, and then they start to go against price, compete against price rather than compete against value.
Yeah. So for, Karen joined us here, and we're talking about the danger report. So, hello, Karen. We're talking about the danger report, and I'm going to pull up my notes here. It's the definitive analysis of negative game changers emerging in real estate.
Yeah.
And this is the report again that was commissioned by the National Association of Realtors. It came out, 4 months ago, something like that?
It was real. It came out this year. I think it was late August, sometime in August, I think it was. When I read it.
And the National Association of Realtors is just seeing some of the pressures that are being put on the real estate market and some of the trends that may be here or may be continuing in the future and what it means to our industry. And it's very eye-opening what's happening here. And these are some of the strategies that we're, talking about to help combat some of these things that may be coming down the pipeline here in the near future or already here.
Yeah. Eye-opening is the key word there. What's even more surprising to me is that there's so many agents that have not read this report yet. And it's so eye-opening. And really, once you read it, it really should kind of change around everything about how you're running your business today. And that's exactly what we're here to talk about. We're going to start getting into in a little bit here is planning out 2016 and where exactly is it that you're going to take your business.
Absolutely. Sorry, I hit that sound effect there, man. I didn't mean to do that. So now the other thing too, that when we talked about this before in another roundtable, was the decline of the relevancy of agents. Yeah. And we talked about technology and some of those things, the Zillow and some of the other things that play into it. I personally feel that, it's still a belly to belly type of transaction. I don't know that agents are ever going to disappear completely, but I think the relevancy of an agent in my eyes is the negotiation. If you're a good negotiator and you can get the highest price or list it for what it's truly worth, not what the homeowner thinks it's worth, the amenity, some of the things that people want to throw in, closing costs, all that kind of stuff, and negotiate all that out. I think that's where the agent, earns their keep, so to speak.
Well,
So
again, it still comes down to delivering hardcore value.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now there's also talk that, and this is, a little bit far fetched, but they're talking about housing finance is nationalized, where it's not, they put here mortgage-backed securities as a method of financing is discontinued because it is too risky and the related fines imposed on banks too severe. So that having one kind of like a flat tax kind of thing.
Right.
And if that's the case, then what would that do, for realtors? What kind of negotiate, what would their role be in that?
Well, we're already seeing that happen, I think, because I think with seeing FHA having such a huge imprint into the mortgage industry now, and with last week we talked about I always get the acronym wrong, the CFPB or whatever, the
Yeah,
consumer
CFPB.
yeah, like what those guys are doing over there. They've got they've got this agency there that is not regulated by Congress. They're like almost kind of rogue in like the kind of things they can do and the kind of things they are doing, and they have a very adversarial relationship with the banks. And I'm not one that's gonna raise a flag and try to defend the banks or whatever, but you do need sensible regulation. But
Yeah.
they're making it so hard for banks, and the penalties that could happen for when they do screw up, whether it's a legitimate screw up or a really like they purposely screwed up because they were doing something bad. The penalties for them makes a lot of banks it's going to start making banks ask themselves, why are we even in this business anymore?
Well, and Max brings up a good point here too, because there is that perception that some realtors are hated, right? They're kind of used car salesmen type. Yeah. I'll tell you, when I bought my house, right, I put in an offer, and here in Phoenix, it was very, very competitive when I purchased my house 3 years ago. There was very little on the market, a lot of investors here, and I told my realtor, hey, let's offer, because I was kind of these wishful home buyers wanting the best deal possible. I offered about 15% below asking on the home. And of course they countered. It was a bank owned property. They countered. And then I countered again. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, this property's been sitting on the market for over 90 days, no offers, no nothing. They've had 3 price reductions, bank owned, a little bit worn and torn, some appliances missing, that sort of thing. But all of a sudden, on my second offer, they've got another offer on the home. And I said, really? All of a sudden, in my mind, I got a little distrust. Is there really that? Or are you trying to just up my price so you get more commission?
Yeah.
Now I'm in the business, right? And this realtor is my friend, but I started to distrust him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I want to see this other offer. Well, you can't see that. Okay. You just feel kind of helpless, right? And that's where I think some realtors get like a bad reputation, because it's not their fault at all. It probably truly was.
But then in a situation like that, maybe the realtor didn't do anything wrong, but they never set the expectations, and they never really explained it to you or really taught you how the process works when you're putting in an offer on a foreclosure, and how the banks could pretty much just do whatever they want, basically.
But I knew it, right? Yeah. But it's such an emotional decision. It is, yeah. I've got my wife, kind of going at me here, like, well, I can't believe we're not going to get. And then, you're trying to be calm, and it's a big deal. And so that's where the realtor really can earn their money, because as Karen has said in previous blabs and previous conversations, you're kind of a educator. You
are. You
call.
Yeah. Exactly, because of that, it is an emotional. It's a very emotional experience to sell your house or to buy a house if you're a buyer seller. So for real estate agents, they do this every day. So you could do this when you're sleeping. It's like no big
Right.
deal. But it
Right.
is it's the biggest transaction that anyone makes in their lifetime
Right.
for most people. And because of that, you have to treat the situation as purely as, again, I go back to that Star Wars reference where you're Yoda and they're Luke Skywalker. You have to get them through that process, but you have to train them, you have to educate them, you have to help them through every step. And that takes a lot of care, it takes a lot of attention, it takes a lot, and they have to actually believe in you that you're actually looking out for their very best interests. And they're only going to believe that you're looking out for their very best interests when they know that you're not focusing on that commission check.
Right.
And that only happens, it can only happen in a very genuine way. They have to see how you're working for them, they have to see the kind of advice and the kind of time and effort you're putting into the whole process.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there is a lot of distrust, unfortunately. And not, as far as a strategy there, maybe you have some testimonials, some things like that, where you can point your clients to say, "Hey, look, I'm on your side. Here's proof in the pudding." Maybe it's Yelp, maybe
Well,
it's Google reviews. I don't. There's got to
the
be,
yeah
you know,
those help you get the process started, but then it comes down to going back right back to where we started, where it's that, what is it that your buyers want and need, and what is it that your sellers want and need? And once you realize that they don't need a salesperson anymore, they need
right.
that consultant, then everything about how you run your business,
Yeah.
how you do your listing presentation, how you do your buyer's presentation, how you do all these and the kind of services you offer your sellers, all these things are all based upon providing a great experience for your clients.
Yeah.
And you'll never make everyone happy, but everything you do has to be all provided about what kind of experience are they going to get by working with me.
Yeah, exactly. And we're getting some comments and some things in the chat room here about, flat fees and things like that. We talked about the commissions being suppressed and coming down for real estate agents in the future. And if you don't really show that value, you're going to be susceptible to that. I see a lot of agents just trying to get in, make a mark for themselves and get into the business, and they'll accept a listing for, 1% or even 2%. Which is great. Sounds fantastic. I've even seen listings for, $960 or something. There's a big ad here in Phoenix about listings for $960 and
Yeah,
a realtor.
there's
Yeah.
all those discount brokers out there.
Sometimes you get what you pay for, right? I mean, it just is. Other times you can get away with it, depending on the pulse of your particular market. If your market's hot and there's offers coming out of everybody's ears, well, then yeah, you may be able to get away with that. But if you need to get the highest price with the best offers, then you probably want an advocate on your side with like a realtor.
Right, absolutely. But but that goes back to, again, where we started from the beginning about people's perceptions about in terms of consumers. These are buyers and sellers, and how they look at the real estate industry, and how they look in particular at real estate agents.
Yeah.
And like you said, like if there was a totem pole of all the different types of salespeople that you had to deal with in your lifetime, your insurance guy, the guy that you buy cars from, the real estate agent, all these different salespeople, the real estate agent gets bundled in that whole thing. Like, when you go to buy a car, you do not get excited about walking into the car dealership and going to talk to some strange salesperson, because you know already that he's worried more about selling you the car, whether it is you want it or not or need it. And that's why, like, every time you buy a brand new car, a lot of people feel a little bit of remorse the day after.
Right.
They should be happy. They should be happy because they just got this car they wanted, but then they feel a bit of remorse only because they don't know if the salesperson had their best interests in mind when they purchased a vehicle last night.
Right.
And there's a little slight bit of buyer's remorse, and that happens with homeowners and buyers and sellers. It happens all the time, and that all comes down to, right from the very beginning, when you work with a buyer or when you're working with a seller, what is it that you offer? What is your value proposition, like you were saying, Jason?
Yep.
And now, how are you going to handle that client? So it's all about providing that experience for them and giving them just pure value in terms of teaching them how a transaction, how you sell a house, or the process for buying a house.
Yeah, we got somebody wanting in on the seat here. I'm not sure how to pronounce this person's name, and if you can't connect in,
Is this
then
what
I'll.
is this a real person, or is it one of
Yeah,
those?
I don't know. It might be somebody who's, we'll see. If not, I'll kick him out, and
Well, actually, can it the guy there, if he could say something on the chat room, then we'll decide, because there's like a lot of these scam things out there.
yeah, let's, if you would like to be in, Karen, certainly you can join in. Max, if you'd like to hop in, we got a seat open here. You can certainly jump in, and tell us your thoughts. And I see some comments here from. Forgive me here. It looks like is it SKRETVEDT?
Yeah.
If you've got some comments and stuff that you'd like to add to this, please jump in. We'd love to have you, Sandy Sunday Vital. I think I pronounced that right. If you'd like to jump in, please do so. We'd love to have you as part of the conversation here.
Right. All you got to have is just a microphone and a video, whatever. Yeah. And then what we'll do is, we're already halfway through the show, so let's get on to the next. Let's get on to the next part of the conversation, so we can keep everything rolling.
Yeah, let's do it, man. So, hey, I want to go into let's talk about your booklet that you have out there, because you do have some good information on your booklet. So let's talk about that, and let's put a link up there in the chat for everybody.
Okay. So welcome to Karen. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
All right.
I just wanted to throw in one thought on the whole price thing, is that I do think that, buyers and sellers tend to focus so much on price. And obviously that's really important, about getting the most, the best deal when they're buying, or getting the most when they're selling. But there is so much more that buyers and sellers don't know about, that could really come back to haunt them later. I mean, we as agents, we see it all the time when you're working with a client and they bought a few years ago with somebody else, and there's an issue that has to get resolved. I just closed on a deal where there were some encroachments. There was a landscaping wall that was encroaching on a neighbor's land, and we needed to deal with that so that they didn't have to deal with it themselves, at some point in the future. So there's a lot more besides just price that I think is part of the value that agents bring, that buyers and sellers just don't know about.
Right. And they don't know about that because really, I mean, for the most part, up until these last several years, when we got the introduction of the internet into real estate, the real estate agents used to be the gatekeepers of all this information, of all the real estate data and everything. So like if you were a buyer or seller, you had to go to a real estate agent to get the job done. And now they don't need that. They don't need the real estate agent in that capacity any longer. But the problem is, Karen, is that real estate agents haven't switched over to being more of a provider of the other kinds of information that buyers and sellers want. They still just want to sell that house or get the buyer to purchase that house. And then they kind of cut short how, the whole education process of teaching that homeowner everything that goes into how you have to sell this house, or that buyer, teaching the buyer about the whole process and understanding every step along the way, from the financing part of it to the inspection part of it, all the way to the close, and giving them, and then also, and watching their backs. Like what you said, that house there that you had that had the encroachment of the from whatever, the landscaping the fence line or whatever, and something, that should have never happened in the first place. But then somebody like a realtor has to be out there looking out for the interests of their client and know those things. You have to be an expert in all those kinds of things. It same happens like if you got, like here in Illinois, we have a lot of radon stuff.
We do too.
And so you have realtors that will sell a house, or they'll have a buyer, and their buyer will buy a house, but they'll never do any due diligence. They never tell them, hey, they'll never say, listen, we need to do a radon test. They never explain that in the very beginning. And then when they go to sell their house, the home buyer in the house, now the next home buyer, they do a radon test, and they find out that there's radon, and that it's going to cost $5,000 to do to run the pipe through the house and get it out of there and stuff like that. And now the homeowner is like, holy cow, we've been living in a house with radon, and how come our last realtor didn't tell us about that? And now I was expecting to get $250. Now we got to lower the price another $5,000. And those are those kind of things, like you were saying, Jayson, that set in to the unhappiness or the ill will that some buyers and sellers have towards real estate agents.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like in every industry, there's people that are really happy with their service provider, and there's people that are not happy at all. And a lot of it comes up with, I think initially there's a how did they feel the experience went? You know, I think there are people that right as they're finishing up a purchase or a sale, they're unhappy because of the process and the communication, but it still got sold or got bought, but they're not thrilled. And then I think that there's other people that don't really realize that they didn't get served well until years later when something comes up or they're trying to move. And then they discover that, you know, why didn't my agent tell me this? You know, why is this not me?
That happens a lot.
Let me throw this out there. If like here in the lending side, we went through a big revamp, right? Dodd-Frank Act, the act really cleansed the industry a little bit of the broker side and got a lot of the sharks out of the tank, so to speak. Do you think, because we're getting a lot of feedback here and a lot of chatter here in the chat room here about a flat fee? Do you, because it seems to be a hot button, right? And we've talked about commissions,
right,
and not being a big, you know, perceived value for a realtor. Do you think that if the IRS or the industry went to a flat fee and paid realtors based on, you know, not 1099, but W-2, like loan officers, do you think it would cleanse some of the, because remember, the first thing on this danger report for agents is the, let me read it here.
I haven't read the report yet.
But the masses of marginal agents destroying the reputation of the industry, right? There's a lot of agents out there who just shouldn't be agents.
Right.
So do you think that would eliminate those people out of the industry by doing something like that?
Some, but not all of them.
No.
I think it might have some effect. If you want to get better agents in the industry, you have to actually train agents to be in this business, you know, and that's the whole problem is that you take one course, you know, like a 45 or 90-hour course, whatever it is now, and every state's different. You take this one course, and for most states, it doesn't, like I've been licensed in Missouri and I've been licensed in Illinois, and I never learned, nothing I learned in the course made me into a better realtor. There's nothing in there that taught me anything other than just waste my time for like 2 or 4 weeks or whatever to get the license. And then once you become a realtor and you get into a brokerage, you hang your license. There is nothing that, unless you get lucky to pick the right brokerage the very first time and work under somebody, you'll never actually learn how to properly represent a buyer and how to properly represent a seller.
Which is exactly what, you know, kind of Max is kind of hitting on it here in the chat room. If the piece of the pie gets smaller and the team atmosphere is in jeopardy, that kind of ruins that whole formula, right? Because if you're going to try to get on a team and learn and have the transactions enough under your belt that you're kind of exposed to all the situations that may come your way, if you can't get that exposure, then you're never going to be the best agent that you can be.
Yeah.
Take a lot of time, right?
That plays into it. But then again, you still got the fact that there's agents that join the team and they still don't really get trained properly, you know,
right.
And it's just, and that's the part of it that kind of sucks, that you don't, there's so few brokerages out there that they'll have all the training programs in the world, but so many of them, you know, you get agents in their conference room, you do the training and stuff, and you'll get some that get it, that understand they got to learn this material and they have to actually take action and do something with it. But so many other agents, they're just thinking, okay, I just need to get that paycheck. I need to get that $6,000 in the commission. So they're just more so focused on, what do I got to do to get something sold?
I think somebody in the chat said, you know, there's such a high turnover. You know, the reality is that a lot of agents don't go into the business realizing that they're really they think they're selling houses, and what they don't realize is that they're really selling their services.
Yeah.
And that the first thing you have to learn how to do is how to get hired and how to find clients. Yeah. And if it's a seller, then the other thing you need to learn how to do is to get, you know, you need to learn how to get them to do a price reduction if they're overpriced. You know, so what I see at brokerages, and I've been at 4 brokerages now, I'm finally at a really great one that I think I could finish my career at. what I find is that the majority of the brokerages, especially the bigger brokerages that really offer lots of training, because the smaller brokerages they don't offer as much because they don't have the resources. And
Right.
the big ones are really focused on teaching you how to get hired, how to build your team, how to get more sales, how to get more clients. They don't spend a lot of time talking about how do you really do right by those clients.
Right.
And how do you really protect them?
Yeah, because the focus is all on the lead generation right now.
It is. It's all on lead generation.
Right. And
so
then
the strategy to get in with the big firms, right? Like Keller Williams or whatever.
I was at a Keller Williams, and I was hesitant to go there because all I was hearing was them talking about lead generation, and we'll teach you how to build a team, and we'll teach you how to get more business. And I'm like, well, what about the walking away when it's in the best interest of a client? What about all of that, doing, that fiduciary duty to the people and focusing. I heard a lot of training that talked about time blocking and not answering calls and focusing on lead generation at your best part of your day. And then later, outsourcing, bringing in an ad, having other people that could field that other stuff. And I'm thinking, isn't my first responsibility to the people that have already hired me over the person that might hire me? Now, granted, I have to find people to keep hiring me or I don't stay in business. So I think that's the challenging part, is that to really be an ethical agent, it's really hard to be also bringing in enough business to then keep your pipeline filled. It's hard.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard. So let's go on because we want to keep in the time here, right?
But just real quick, that's perfectly stated, though. It's a good point.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Very good point. All right, so George, let's put up in the chat there. Put up the link to your kind of booklet that you have there. This is pretty cool because agents can use this to help set goals. One of the things I love you having a beer there, Karen. I love it.
I just discovered porters. I'm in love.
Pumpkin flavor in the spirit of Halloween?
No, it's not pumpkin. This is amazing.
Oh, okay. So
there we go.
There you go. Happy Halloween. Hey. All right. So that's enough of that. All right, cool. So, okay. There's a link there in the chat, and George, we'll put it in, for YouTube when we play it on YouTube. Send me that. I'll keep the link or whatever and put it in the link for the notes and whatnot. But this is a good form for realtors to have to set some goals for next year.
Right. Yeah. So we're talking. We covered a lot of stuff in the beginning about the danger report, and I think it was appropriate to kind of start there first because so much of what's in that report really should tie into everything that our agent is going to be doing with their business in the next year. And so what we've got here is this is a workbook. And it's an exercise for a real estate agent. And what it does is it takes an account of everything that you're doing or everything you've been doing for the last 12 months. And you start to take an analysis of your business and what you've accomplished in the last 12. So you start to look at how many buyers did you have? How many sellers did you have? How many? And then you start to break it down into, of the buyers you had, how did you acquire them? What was the marketing? What was the lead generation techniques you used to get those buyers and to get those sellers? And then the next step is then focusing in a little bit more on your business and what is your value proposition for your sellers? What is your value proposition for your buyers? And then we're taking this this journey to where then we start to get into your goal setting and where it is you're going to start putting your goals for the next 12 months. And you set two different types of goals. We set our long-term goals, which are kind of simple and kind of general. And then we have our immediate 30-day goals, which is going to break down what do I need to be doing in the next 30 days. And you keep refilling that every 30 to be able to keep and maintain where you're really trying to get to, which is those larger goals. And then the last part of it is actually now you take all that information where you've generated business, what your value prop is, all this stuff. And now you have to start put together an actual marketing plan. So what you're going to do is you start to find out where do I need to be spending my time, money, all my resources and efforts, and start to put some organization into where all that is going. And in the workbook, I also have a copy of my marketing plan for real estate agents. And the marketing plan breaks down everything that a real estate agent could be doing marketing wise. Now, and the plan doesn't break it down to like, you should be doing all this stuff. It just breaks it down into here's the basic stuff that you should be doing that every real estate agent should have, like having a database and online profiles and stuff like that. But then after that, you start picking and choosing which are the things that you want to be getting into. What are the kind of marketing strategies that you want to be taking on? And you pick them based upon where your strengths are first. So you focus in more on where your strengths are, not so much on your weaknesses. Once you got a handle on your strengths and you're executing that well, then you start to pick apart some of those weaknesses where you think you need to shore up some areas of that. So it's a really simple exercise. It's pretty much all fill in the blank type stuff. But
yeah, this looks great, man.
Yeah, it does look great. I'm going to definitely try it.
Yeah, this covers everything.
Yeah, it really does. And I've been using this when I train agents for like the last 3 years. That since I stopped being a realtor and stopped selling real estate and just training realtors, this was where it all kind of started. Was that when I used to have realtors that worked for me when I owned a brokerage, and we would start to break down what it is they needed to help them grow. Every real estate agent had something different. Like they all had, some have different strengths than the next one. And so like what works for one realtor may not work for the other. Like you could have two great realtors and they could both buy the same Brian Buffini program, or they could go through Bold from Keller Williams or the Tom Ferry program, whatever. And they'll get different results because their strengths and weaknesses are going to be different. For some agents, those programs will work awesome and they can capitalize with them and stuff. And then for others, those systems won't work well for them. It doesn't tie into what they really have to offer. So what this plan sort of does is you have like this honest view of where your business is at and honestly assess what it is, what your strengths are and weaknesses, and capitalize it on those strengths. And then,
beautiful.
Yeah, and it's a simple exercise. Take you like about a half hour. Like so, you spend like your whenever you got a little bit of downtime, take a half hour to kind of go through it.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that, Jorge.
Yeah, it looks great.
Awesome, love it, man.
And it's downloadable. You don't have to put in your email address or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's free.
It actually is free.
Yeah, no, this is awesome, dude. So now, with that being said, everybody download that. And like I said, I'll put it on the YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, when I put up this video and whatnot. And Karen, forgive me here, but I didn't give you your elevator pitch. So tell everybody how we can get a hold of you, your website, whatever it is that you want to plug right now. Go ahead and do so, because that will be on my podcast. So
okay, great.
Yeah, plug it in. I need to take a refill real quick.
All right. All right.
So I'm Karen Goodman. I am with Circa Properties in the St. Louis area. I have a website, archcityhomes.com, and I work with both buyers and sellers. I do work the entire St. Louis metro region, not the entire region, but most of it. So I'm not one of those agents that has followed the classic advice of, find a tiny little niche and focus on that. I work from referral, and my marketing is through social media and through networking. And so I go where the people that I connect with want me to go. But I was doing what Jorge was suggesting, and I was really kind of looking at kind of the clients that I've been working with recently. And one of the things that just jumped out at me just a few days ago, it just kind of hit me, was that I really do really well with clients that have hard homes to sell. So anybody can sell the beautiful home that has everything that everybody wants. Anybody can sell that house. And I love those houses, don't get me wrong. But I am really good at getting homes sold that have something that makes it really tough. So I've sold a few homes that are in the 100-year flood zone. that can be really challenging. At least in St. Louis, it can. We're between the Missouri and the Mississippi, and we got all these little creeks everywhere.
Right.
I've sold homes. I just sold a home that really only had one decent bedroom. There were a couple of other rooms that technically I could call a bedroom, but the reality is they wouldn't hold one of them wouldn't even hold a twin size bed. So it was a nursery. It worked. So that was, so I'm really good at getting homes sold that have kind of deal breakers for the majority of people. And so I like those homes. They're fun. They're challenging. So, I was at a networking event today, and somebody gave me, and I was explaining this, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, what you need is referrals to people that had a sign in the yard. The sign has disappeared, but they're still living there." And that's really my, I'm really good at that. So I work in St. Louis, archcityhomes.com. I'm Karen STL on almost every social network. I signed up for YouTube before I came up with the Karen STL. So that's not the same. I don't know if there's a way there isn't really a way to change your username, is there? And without starting over.
Only one time on YouTube. They'll give you one shot, and that's it.
Oh, well, I should probably check and see if it's available.
So make sure when you change your URL address on YouTube, make sure you pick one that will kind of work with you for the rest of your career.
Right.
Or else, there is no way they will not grant you a one timer or anything like that after that. That's
okay. That's good to know. I knew that was true with Facebook. But I didn't know that was so. Yeah. So I'm Karen STL everywhere except for YouTube.
All right. Cool.
All right. Thanks, Karen.
So now I want to get into some of the things that you can do as a realtor, some of the things that you should be doing to help with your marketing efforts there in 2016. We've talked about this a little bit in a past episode, but I want to kind of go through. I picked out 6 of them that I think are critical. And if you're not implementing these in your business today, you could be hurting yourself. So obviously, not obviously maybe, but mobile friendly, right? A lot of people are getting their information via mobile, tablets, whatever. Make sure your website is mobile friendly, or anything that you have on, social media, anything that you have on the web is mobile friendly, that that you can read it on your phone. And we've talked about apps. I mean, how do you guys feel about apps? Apps are kind of like a, hit and miss, right? Some people love
having your own app.
Yeah, having your own real estate app. Well, speaking of which,
there's a stat from Mashable, and Mashable is a big tech magazine. They have a stat where 75% of all the apps downloaded on the Apple App Store don't get used after about 6 months. Something like that. So it's supposed to be 75% of those apps that get downloaded, they get used and then they sort of just fade away. They just never get used again. So I don't think there's any reason at all for a real estate agent to have an app. I don't see what you could get your buyer or seller value in by giving them an app, because the only thing that you could give them something in would be search. Real estate search.
And I don't think there's any value in that, because there's better ones. There's Realtor.com, there's Zillow.
Exactly.
What do you think?
The Realtor.com one, the Zillow one, the Trilly one, and the Redfin are great, and buyers have demonstrated they prefer those apps over your own app.
So look at the one I just put in the chat room. Okay, Home Snap. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this one. This thing is really, really cool. Right. So here in Phoenix, if you get on Home Snap, you can actually take a picture. You can have you can drive by the house, take a picture with your phone, and it pulls up all the information of that home on your phone from public record through the picture. Now, I've actually signed into it, and I've actually had realtors contact me saying, "Hey, I'd love to be your Home Snap realtor." Now, there's a buyer side and there is a realtor side. So I think on the realtor side, you have access then to see potential buyers or home shoppers, if you will. But I think that app was rated the #1 real estate app in the country.
I've never heard of it before. Is it everywhere? Is it
everywhere? As far as I know, it's everywhere.
Okay.
It's really good here. There's one for realtors and one for other people. So check that one out.
Have you heard of Homekeeper? I was thinking about that one.
No, this one's free, by the way. I don't think it costs anything.
Okay. So Homekeeper is one that basically the agent purchases, it's a subscription, and you can have up to, I think it's 100 people using the app for like their lowest monthly price. And the idea is that you load up service providers into it, and you also load up like reminders and push notifications to like, don't forget to change your furnace filter or whatever. And it's what they pitch it as is a way to keep in front of people. You're sending them like home maintenance reminders, and then if they want an electrician, they can look up and see who you've got listed. But I'm not really sure that I want to. I don't know.
It all comes down to whether the public will use it,
right?
Whether consumers will use it. And that's the whole key with apps. Like the technology is there where you can make an app to do anything,
right?
And you can make an app to do all sorts of cool stuff. But it's whether people accept and use it. And that's like, if you go to QR codes, that's why QR codes are just a waste. And you'll see a lot of agents still try to use QR codes. Like I'll see QR codes still on real estate signage, and I see it sometimes on real estate flyers. And I saw a realtor at an event the other day that had a QR code on their business card. And that's just a pure example of like not understanding that people don't use QR codes, not in the United States, at least. They use them in Korea for some reason, but they do not use
right.
Consumers don't use QR codes.
Right.
Here. And so
do they use them in North Korea, George?
North Korea, but in Korea they use them. But that's with in South Korea. But with the apps, I don't think that's a thing they waste any more time on. And definitely, like, no realtor should be thinking that they should spend any time, money, or effort into producing their own app.
I wouldn't spend money on it. The HomeSnap one is free, like I said, so you can check it out and use it. I thought it was pretty cool because you take a picture of the house and there you go. You had all the information. It was pretty cool.
Right. But I have agents even that they have the Realtor.com app on their iPad, and when they're on the field showing houses, sometimes it's easier to go onto the Realtor.com app to find out what that house is worth than to get onto their.
I use Zillow when I'm out in the field. Yeah, it's so much easier than logging into my MLS.
Yep. Because most MLSs don't have. We don't have an app for just realtors to use.
We don't have an app, and we don't have a mobile. Right. And you have to log in, and it won't save your password, and it's just very clunky. It's just easier for me to shoot over to Zillow, and then I can even see price reductions and stuff. So I think
it makes sense when you're on the go. It's quick.
Yeah.
Easy.
All right, so let's go on to the next one here. What about Bing and Yahoo? We talk about Google all the time. Obviously, is it worth doing SEO for Bing and Yahoo?
Well, the first part is going to be yes and no. So like you don't pay for SEO, not anymore. Like, and if you do come across an internet guy or guru or tech company that wants to sell you, like, they'll call you usually with a sales call and say like, hey, I can get your website ranked to be #1 on Google and Bing or whatever. And that's, I would say that's something you want to stay away from. SEO is important, but to build SEO is more about building a website that actually produces SEO on its own in an organic sense. So like, if you want Google to find your website, you have to put content in your website that people are actually searching for. And like Google, that's how it works.
Yeah. And one thing I would say too, I do Bing and I do Yahoo just to kind of search, because I'm always putting my podcast out there and trying to get, optimization for that. It does come up a little differently. They do rank things differently. So there is a technique to that. I don't pay for it. I don't do any of that stuff yet. You type in my name and my name will come up everywhere. So
something I would just throw in about that is that, if we back up just a second and kind of combine this with the idea of why would we have an app? Why would we create an app so that people can search for homes? I think that, there is such a push to have that agents have to have listings and to get people to sign up and register so they can send out, push out listings to people. And I just think that personally I know there are people that are finding success with that, but again, why I don't think consumers really want that. And what I think that the content, it should be about content. It should be about information that shows your expertise beyond just providing them the list of houses.
Well, that's your point. Like, Karen, you do that blog, right? I think that's beautifully done. I think it's fantastic. That goes a long way.
What's your blog? What's the name of it?
It's archcityhomes.com. And I'm doing I do a blog, but I'm doing some video. Here, I'll type it in here.
I'll check it out when we get over.
Okay.
So with that being said, that information there, the research on you, I think is more valuable than having the app. Because I've always said in real estate, you've only got a window of opportunity to capture somebody's attention of about 4 months, maybe even less, probably less before they make the decision of who they're going to have represent them. So your window of opportunity is very, very small. So after you've conducted business with that person, the app is no longer of use to them. So promoting that app, it kind of turns, if you know what I mean. It doesn't seem to have the staying power.
Well,
a blog post does.
And as an example, I mean, I had a great client this year, a professional woman, professional family. She searched for something. I don't remember what it was. She searched for something and landed on one of my blog posts. Then she explored my website, and then she checked out some other things that I did, and then she hired me. She sold a $250,000 house and bought a $700,000 house. So I did almost $1 million in volume from this couple. Had she landed on my website because I was pushing home listings, there would have been no
there's no value there
to get her excited about hiring me personally. No, I was just one of a gazillion agents that had listings out there. But because she landed and found information, it was a different story.
What you experienced there is what we call there's a journey that people take when they're wanting to buy a product or a service. And when they take that journey, they start doing research before they buy that product or service. And the game is played like this. If you put out a website, you want that website to answer questions and to provide information that's valuable to the people you're trying to reach. And that's the only way Google wants you. Google only wants you if you got something valuable to offer. And their algorithm is smart and fast enough that they can go through your website and find out if it's valuable to the searcher or not. And then so, Karen, like what you experienced there with that client, that is the way that you do it. And so, and we call that's pure content. We call it content marketing. And content marketing is just providing content, and it's valuable pieces of information, whether it's how to buy a house, how to sell a house, how to prep a house for sale, all these questions that buyers and sellers have. And these are all the questions that you as a real estate agent have the answers for. You have all these answers. You're like a walking Wikipedia of all this information. The thing to do though is you got to take all that information and get that onto your website, and spin it on your website in a way that is personable and shows off your brand. And when you do that, it's magical. It really is. Like I'm sure I could tell how excited you were from that one blog post that started that client down the journey hole, the rabbit hole with you. They saw you, they saw what you're all about. They liked you, and then that's what helped them make the decision that Karen's the person that can help me. Karen's the person that can get me from point A to point B with this sale and with this purchase. And it's all because that's what providing value is all about. You provided pure value, and they responded. They respond back to you in kind.
And I'll say too because that kind of leads into the next thing here that I have, which is YouTube. Right. YouTube is still, there's their YouTube Red thing, which I don't think is really going to affect anything other than the music video side of YouTube. But having YouTube cards and some of the things that you can do within your video, I've always said to all the agents I speak to, you can say more in a video just through your body language, your emotion, your background, all kinds of things that you can do with video. And Karen, with what you do, I think it's fantastic. I think it's a brilliant idea. Having somebody who lives in a neighborhood talk about their neighborhood, I think is just invaluable. And so kudos to you for doing that, because
that's the fun part. That's the fun part, because you can be really creative with that.
So that's my new video series is talking to local residents about the little, suburb, the community that they live in. And I've done it 3 times now, and I'm getting, and one of the things that's interesting is it's also getting me, it's doing some creative things, because because I'm doing it through Blab, and not very many people are on Blab yet. Yeah. I'm actually having to reach out to people who are on Facebook or in other networking groups, other people that are comfortable with social media, or are trying to get their business out there in front of people, but aren't on Blab yet. And I'm bringing them into Blab. I'm teaching them how to sign up. Yeah. I'm giving them a mini Blab lesson right before we go live. And then, so I'm creating this huge connection with these people I'm interviewing, that most of which I didn't know very well before. And it's a whole nother direction. I'm getting the interview out of it. I'm getting the content, but I'm also building some solid, social media connections by teaching them this whole video platform. And I'm bringing them into this platform, and hopefully they push that out to their networks.
And again, it just comes down to, you provide valuable content. So,
right.
Like let's say I've got, so in my business, I have products and services that I sell, right, to real estate agents. But if I come on this show and just start talking about how great my real estate photography is, or how great my websites are, or just start going off and I do, my websites get this amount of traffic and you should buy one. And I mean, everybody would have clocked out of this like after minute 1. No, there would be no value there for the people that are attending. But what you're doing is providing neighborhood information is one of those key components of all the things you could offer information on that buyers are looking for. And it's a way to get your foot in the door with somebody. And when they see that you produced a piece of content, whether it's written, audio, or video, you're demonstrating your worth and your value prop right there, as long as the message is good. And that's why it's so beautiful when it's done, when it's executed right and it works. And the best part about it, the way I look at it, is that you don't have to sell. And that, to me, that's what makes this whole business, that's the part of it that really can make the business fun, is when you're online marketing, you're just providing value to people. You're actually helping people. And then if they want to do business with you, that's awesome. That's just great.
I agree.
All right, cool. So I think we covered a lot of it. We're running about minute 15, minute 17 here. So probably going to, wrap it up. We can continue the conversation, but as far as the podcast, go ahead.
Was there another item on the list?
No, Google AdWords, is one of the other things that I had on the list. Using AdWords.
What was the next one?
I had, that's it, man. I just had those 5 things, really.
Okay.
Excuse me. Facebook ads. I did have that on there. Using Facebook ads. We talked about that. Yeah. Twitter, using Twitter to its fullest potential, because Twitter's now starting to do promote buttons and video features, and they're getting in the algorithm of getting into the search SEO deal. Yeah. LinkedIn blogging.
I'm doing that.
Yeah, for the posts or whatever, using that.
Posts, yeah.
It's the publishing platform.
And I post this on LinkedIn too. I post the Blab on my LinkedIn side for the posts. They also have a thing called Cards or something like that that's relatively new, or some kind of where you have a series of pictures. Oh,
so that's media. I just totally revamped my LinkedIn profile yesterday, and it's pretty cool. If you spend a little time and you stop treating it like it's just a list of all the places you used to work, with your job duties, and treat it like it's an about me page, and what do you do and what do you want people to hire you for. In almost every section, you can now, especially in that summary section, there's a little, when you're in the edit screen, there's a little box that lets you add media. That media can be a PDF, it can be a video, it can be an image. And so I uploaded a custom floor plan so people can see see I do that. I uploaded videos, a YouTube link. So there's some really neat things you can do there if you really maximize the profiles.
Yeah. It's actually linked in cards or something like that.
What's that?
It's actually linked in cards.
Your microphone's.
Yeah, you got some crazy reverb or something going on.
What did you say? It's LinkedIn what?
I thought it was LinkedIn cards.
No, the cards are YouTube cards.
Yeah, no, this is
on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, this is just that on most of the sections now you can add these media links like Karen
you're thinking projects. There's a section called projects.
You can
actually add. I took it out. I moved stuff from what was in projects and moved it up into the summary. And you should try it. It's actually pretty cool. You can upload something. It'll link to it. It's almost like when you put a picture on Facebook and you click into that status update, and there's a spot that you can have a description. Those links are live, so people can click through. They can actually play the YouTube video from your LinkedIn profile. It's pretty.
It's really cool. The only thing that LinkedIn hasn't done with them yet is that they're on the desktop feature, or those are all features on your desktop, but they're not on mobile. I'm hoping that they add that to your mobile. But what you can do, so what I do is I have those on my LinkedIn profile, but then what I also do is on my summary section, I put in there 2 links. And what you can do is if you put HTTP // you can put a direct link going into anything you want. So what I did on my summary is I made a direct call to action that just says it really directly, hey, do you want this? Download it here.
Right.
Want this? Download it here. And I've got one going directly to my website to a certain page and one going to a download.
The other thing I did is I actually made all of those links bit.ly links so that I could track, because there's no way to track, you can see views and how many people have viewed your profile, but you can't see if people are actually clicking through any of those links.
Yeah.
So I made them all bit.ly links.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea to make them bit.ly links. And then do you have Google Analytics on your WordPress site?
I do, but I don't dig in beyond kind of what people, I don't dig in too deeply.
It's the next step for you to take. Like as you start creating more content for your website, you'll start seeing which articles and which videos and which pages pull more. And when you start, and that's the part that gets really fun, and you could totally watch out the cats in here.
But some of it is like I'm linking to like a YouTube channel. Yeah. So I want to be able to see the bit.ly click throughs. It's just the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. It's really cool to track it. And I agree with that. Use the bit.ly links and track where people are going and how they're getting to your site, and then what they're doing once they get to your site. And it's really, it starts to really open up like the more ideas for content. Really is what ends up happening.
Well, we're talking about clickable links. The first thing on your list of tips was to make everything mobile friendly. And one of the things that I see still quite a bit from other professionals, especially a lot of mortgage people, is the signature is still sometimes a big image block that looks like a business card.
Yeah.
And it's all one big image. And that's a pain for me even on my computer, because a lot of times I will go and I will try to copy and paste that phone number so that somebody will ask me for a referral. I'll go to my email, I'll do a quick search, I'll pull up, an email from them. I'll try to copy that email, that phone number, and paste it into Facebook for somebody. And I can't copy and paste it. But on a cell phone, if it's part of a big image, it's not clickable. So I would just caution people to lose the business card signature on your emails and turn it all into just text.
Make it all text and take out all the garbage.
Right. And if you want to have a picture, you could still have your logo. You can still insert an image, but type everything in. Don't make an image of it.
Your email address is a very important piece of communication, and we rely on emails now for a lot of our communication with our clients today. So like that email signature is a really important part, because we don't have Rolodexes anymore. People don't write down phone numbers and email addresses. So usually a lot of people, when they want to access you, they want your contact information, they go to your email, and that's where they're going to go check.
I can't put a dog's face on my face, but I can put it in front of him. I just woke him up. I'm sorry. He was napping.
No, it's okay. All right. So the last two things here, I had live streaming. Obviously, we're doing this now. That's going to become a bigger part. You know, if you're a realtor, Karen, you're doing a great job doing live streaming. If you're not doing it as a realtor, shame on you. You should be doing it.
Which I think I would love to do a show where after Karen does a few more of these local shows, I would love to do a recap with you on like how that's going and how it's working, what works, what's been challenges and stuff like that. Cause I think it's a great way to get some local community interaction going.
I would love to do a show that brings in people. There's so many people talking about marketing here on Blab. I would love to do a show that talks about, you know, what are some creative ways to connect with locals? You know, using.
I can give you. I
have a couple of ideas, but I'd love to hear. You know, I think it'd make a really great live stream.
I'll give you a real quick one right now.
Okay.
I just interviewed this agent on my podcast a few weeks ago, and so if you go to the last episode I had, you can hear it, and what's funny is that I'm getting ready to finish the interview, and she's like, wait, before you stop, I need to say something. I got to tell you about what I'm doing, you know? So she tells me about this. She's doing she makes this party every month in her neighborhood where she lives here in Chicago. And she puts the party around these two things: local women that live in a neighborhood who like wine. And so
beer.
And what they do is they go to a local business in their neighborhood and they go to every month. They got a preset dates, and she's done this consistently every month for the past year. She started with a small group, and it keeps growing and growing, and they get together. They do like this wine social happy hour thing. And if there's no pitches, there's no one's being sold anything or anything like that. But the business closes down, and you know, at like 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, and then all the people come in there, and it's pure just social happy hour thing. So it's a pure just event, but she's the organizer of it, and she doesn't kind of put her brand, or she doesn't put logos all over the place or anything like that. All she's focused on is just building relationships with local business owners and with other women that live in the neighborhood and just are looking for like a night off or a break or something like that from the kids and family and all that. It's beautiful. She's been doing it for like a year now, and I'm actually going to go photograph the next event she does to kind of see it all happen for myself.
That's a great idea. But I'm curious how people can use something like this, which is really well suited to people that are coaches or marketing people that can sell something anywhere. You know, somebody that can sell their coaching services but via phone or via video, and they could live anywhere in the world. I mean, Blab is wonderful. But I would love to really brainstorm with people about how can we use something like this system to sell something that's bricks and mortar, or it's a local service. Not just real estate, but, you know, how would the personal trainer that's looking for clients, you know, find people that aren't across the world, but are actually in town? You know, I think that would be a really great conversation.
Yeah. On local stuff, it has to be about, you know, you're tying local content to local business people. So you gotta find interest levels there, things that they're peaked on. So maybe you tie things around like a local run that you're going to have, or some local event, and you tie a couple of these leading up to that event or whatever. I think and then, you know, it's also about getting people that are part of your little sphere on the offline and bringing them in here to this platform. So I think it works both ways that way.
Well, that's what I'm doing with my Where Do People Live? Like, I've only found like 3 people in my city on Blab.
Yeah.
So I'm dragging them in order to have people to interview.
Yeah.
So, but I want to kind of wrap it up here for this. We'll continue the conversation, right? Let's go ahead and wrap it up for this, and then we'll continue the conversation because I got some thoughts on that. Okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna stop recording now, right?